This is the Pulse. My colleague Opoku Gakpo joins me. I told you earlier he'll be here to discuss a number of issues with me. He's been speaking with the Minister for Gender, Otiko Afisa-Jaba. Gakpo, people feel that it's been long overdue for these kind of defilement cases to be declared as a national security threat. Exactly how serious is the Gender Ministry taking this issue up this time round?
So, Madam Otiko Afisa-Jaba makes the point that they're taking it very seriously, although her ministry is not directly supposed to be the organization in charge when it comes to bringing justice, but they're engaging in the necessary collaboration with the law enforcers, particularly the Ghana Police Service. And she was very emphatic that she would encourage parents of victims of defilement and all of those abuses to, as much as possible, approach the police, make sure that the case gets to them, and then they will then do the necessary collaboration. At their end, at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, they will be doing the necessary follow-ups. They will be collaborating with the Ministry of Interior, with the Ghana Education Service, because she pointed to some of these incidents happening in schools, which she says is a very worrying situation. And so the necessary collaboration, the necessary sensitization would go out to the parents to ensure that when such incidents happen, those responsible are dealt with as much as possible.
Well, this is not the first time we're hearing of this. There's been a chain of events in recent times. What has the ministry done so far, did she say?
So specifically, she was in Parliament to respond to questions about what is being done to take care of vulnerable girls on the streets. You know, sometimes that ends up being a contributory factor to how come girls are taken advantage of.
Definitely so.
She made the point that it's one of the things that they are doing. They've launched a campaign which they describe as the Operation Get Off the Streets Now for a Better Life. That's a long name for a campaign, but then there's the Operation Get Off the Streets Now for a Better Life. And with that, they are creating a database of various groups. They are assisting the vulnerable with tailoring skills. They assisting them with adult literacy.
We heard about this campaign 3 months ago. Has she told us where they've got into with this campaign?
So they say they're linking up with the KIA, for example. They are putting up various facilities for them. They are helping them to get them into hotel, management, catering services, the garment industry. They are promoting a specific quota for them when it comes to employment situation. She says these are all activities that are ongoing, which will take time. And she also mentioned the campaign pledge of the NPP to help ensure that they put up an accommodation facility for some of these people. She says that's also very much ongoing. They are working on that. She says when it comes to the leap as well, one of the ways that they are ensuring that as much as possible women are not vulnerable is to get cash to them. That's something as well that they are really inching up. And so generally, she says the second phase of the leap would see a situation of the amounts being more people benefiting, and also those are some of the measures.
But she didn't talk about increasing the amount.
No, that hasn't come up yet.
But it's obvious that people are impatient. People want to see an end to all of this. Did she give timelines as to when we would heave a sigh and say our country is free of these kind of sexual abuse, sexual harassment?
Not directly, except to make the point that this is work in progress. And so the results will actually be seen in due course. She pointed to the role that the media has played in helping highlight a number of these issues. So she thinks it's quite a good move and would help put the necessary pressure on those who need to act. And specifically, we raised the latest such incident of, defilement, rape, whichever way you would call it, that had happened at the Adjustment Senior High School. And one of the things that she said they are pushing for strongly is that they would want various institutions to empower themselves as much as possible and be in the position to take care of some of these cases. So she pointed to how with the Ghana Education Service, they have a code of conduct for their teachers and their head teachers on what they can do with students and what they cannot do with students. And so one of the expectations is that they would enforce those codes very vigorously and ensure that if the teacher may have breached it and he needs to be sanctioned, then those sanctions should apply. So beyond the necessary collaboration that's been done with the security agencies and all, they're also pushing for the various institutions to be empowered so they can take action even when some of these issues come up. But she had a strong advice for females, that they should be careful, they should be educated on, you know, how to avoid people touching them in very terrible manners and all. And she thinks once that education goes out, then they could cut down on some of these cases.
Well, I know you're coming from Parliament, and of course, all eyes are on the cash for seed probe. Indeed, recently we heard the GII boss cautioning that looking at the nature of the committee, she has high expectations for the committee, in that if they bring any substandard outcome, she'll be very disappointed. What has been going on with this probe?
So today, a hearing that we all didn't see coming actually came off, which was a decision we understand was taken after one of the meetings of the committee. And today they met the Controller and Accountant General, Eugene Ofosuhene.
Yes.
He appeared before the committee. You'd recall that one of the main controversies has been monies up to 2.6 million cedis that was paid to the Ministry of Trade and Industry for onward forwarding to the Millennium Excellence Foundation. And mainly the concern from the minority side has been that this amount, once it goes through government coffers, there's a procedure through which you can get money into government coffers and withdraw money from it. They think those procedures were breached, and so Ofosuhene was asked to provide clarity on that.
I'm afraid I would have to cut short this interview.